So I wanted to talk to you guys about the books that have impacted me that I've been reading over the last few years and have given me the best knowledge or the best perspectives that I now go and share with everyone else when I speak to in conversation, or that I find myself referring back to constantly. And the first one is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if you guys have read this, but this book is it's probably the number one book that I would keep rereading. I've read it 5 times now, and the reason I've read it 5 times is because there's always something you can learn. It's a parable, it's a fake story, it's a made up story, it's fiction, but there's so many life lessons in there, it's unreal. And one of the big overarching messages in that book, without ruining it too much, is that we all have a destiny, and if we have the courage to follow it and follow what's in our heart, follow the feeling that we get to head in a certain direction in our lives, that dream and that feeling will lead us to a place where we feel like we found our place in the world, where we feel like we should have always been, you know? So there's so many other lessons I can share from it, but I don't want to ruin it for you guys. I want you guys to go out and read it. But for me, if you're feeling, this is the reason you should read it. If you're feeling lost, if you don't know what you want to do in your life, and you're looking for something that's going to give you philosophical or life lessons that will be directly applicable to your life, you know, there'll be something in there where you feel like, oh, you know, I felt this before, or shit, I should have looked at life in this way, you know, the way that Santiago, the boy in the book, looks at life and is taught to look at life as he goes on. And as you follow his journey, it makes you reflect on your journey and the milestones that you come across, as and when he comes across the milestones in his life. And the whole book goes full circle. You know, it's a beautiful ending. And, you know, I'm not going to ruin it, as I said, but you guys should definitely go out and read it. And it's a short book as well. It's not that long. So it won't take you a long time to read. Now, number 2 is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, this book, if you're into communicating with people, you enjoy communicating with people, or your profession is to network, to be in sales, etc., or even just generally, you want to understand people a lot better and improve the relationships with your friends, with your family, loved ones, this book is a must read. Now, this book is it's a good few decades old. You know, I think it was written maybe in the 60s or 70s. Don't quote me on that. It might be older. But the reason I keep rereading this book is because the lessons in there are very, very simple. There's a number of lessons broken down into different chapters. However, one of the most profound lessons that I've taken away from it is, if you want to be an interesting person, and who doesn't want to be an interesting person, be interested. To be interesting, be interested. So what that means is show interest in other people's lives. So when you're speaking to someone, let's take a friend. Your friend's speaking to you about a new job that he's got or she's got. The last thing you want to do is start talking about yourself and how your job is going, and that you're looking for a new job, and you know, you've got this family problem and X, Y, and Z. As you talk, you know, you talk about that sort of stuff with your best friend. But if you shift the conversation and focus it on his or her new job and say, you know, how are you finding that? You know, congratulations on it. And what's it like? Why did you pick that job in particular? How do you feel when you go to work? What sort of things do you do on a day-to-day basis? You know, just get into conversation to genuinely be interested, and that person will naturally feel more of a liking towards you. And this goes for a stranger as well. And the reason I'm saying that is because I've done it, I've tried it, and it's working. On this podcast, the way that I treat the guests is as if they're royalty. And that sounds silly, but that's the best way for me to learn, is to be genuinely curious in the other person. And that builds a level of rapport that shows to them that, oh, hang on, this person actually cares about my life. Because attention is so far spread these days, we don't look at something more than 2 seconds, because we're in this age of just scrolling through stuff. So we're just like, all right, yeah, cool, that's good. You know, how did your day go? Oh, cool, it went well, nice. And then you move on to the next thing. We don't stop to have a proper conversation and to have eye contact, you know, to look directly at the person you're speaking to. This is something that I personally find frustrating. You know, I'm speaking to someone and they're not looking at me. I'm like, well, to me, that's rude. And so it's body language plus being interesting Well, actually, being interesting comes across in two ways: the language that you speak verbally, the types of questions you're asking and how engaged you are and how much you're focusing the conversation on them, and also your body language. Are you facing the person? Are you giving them eye contact? Are you smiling at them? Are you showing them the gestures that you naturally want to see when someone's sort of excited, to be around you? So think about all these things when you're having conversations. You're going to build relationships at work, with your family, at home, outside of home. And if you're doing business, especially important if you're doing business, because business is all about people, about customers. And you need to show genuine interest when you're trying to build long-term relationships. So that's the overarching principle of the whole book, is to be more interested if you want to be an interesting person, because people will remember you for that. And then it breaks down small things like using a person's name, smiling, and it gives you lots and lots of different stories, lots and lots of different stories, in terms of where it's all worked for people in history. So it's a really good book. The next book is Mastery by Robert Greene. Now, this book is very, very dense. So I would say you should probably listen to it on audiobook. That's what I do. I've got a hard copy as well, but I haven't gone through it from start to finish because there's too much information there. Just way too much information. So, but the reason this book is good is because Robert Greene has put in the effort to break down exactly what has made people in history masters in their field, from Leonardo da Vinci to some of the best writers in the world, to actors, to dancers, to there's a lot of people in history there. I think he even goes into like political leaders, and so there's people from different fields. And the one thing that he hones in on is the amount of practice this person puts in to master their craft. But you hear their story as well, which is very inspiring, because you see that all of these people started from zero, from no experience. They were absolutely shit at what they did, or they were confused, or they were lost. And there's something there for you to connect with and think, hang on, I felt like this. If Leonardo da Vinci was treated this way by his family and he felt lost and he did this, that, and the other, and now he's gone down in history for a number of different things, I can do it. So it's motivational as well as very educational. There is a lot of dense information in there. It is not a book that you can read in a day. It'll probably take you a few weeks or a few months, but very, very worth it if you're looking to master a particular field or a craft in your life, which you should be. If you don't know what it is already, at least trying to figure out what it is. Because once you start sort of the path of mastery, that's when you start getting paid. That's when you can charge what you want for fees. Eric Thomas was saying in one of his videos, can't remember which one it was now, but he was saying before he used to just accept, if he has to fly out somewhere else, he used to just accept that and say, yeah, fine, I'll fly to you. I'll speak to you guys wherever you are. I'll take whatever fee you're offering. Now he tells them what his schedule is. He tells them when he's going to be free. He tells them how much he's going to charge. He tells them the particulars of the contract, because he's in a position where he's, very sought after, because he's mastered the craft of speaking. And so whatever that is for you, understand what it takes to master your craft. Now, the next book is, what is it? What's the next book? Where Good Ideas Come From by Steven Johnson. That's a really good book because it really breaks down in using real life stories where people get ideas from. So some of the best ideas in the world, for example, Apple, with the iPhone. And there's a lot of other things in there as well, in terms of how people uncovered, some of the people that were arrested for 9/11. Then he also talks about computers and how they were first made. So there's stories from all over the world, all different sectors and all different eras as well. But the one thing that's common is they've all had a good idea, but it's come about in 7 different ways. There's 7 different elements to having a good idea, and he breaks down each of them. And then you'll start to understand how you can develop good ideas and how you can find the next big idea for yourself. Now, I'm not saying it's going to make you a millionaire and you're going to find the next $1 billion idea. That's not the point of it. The point is to help you think creatively in your life, so you can think of ideas that will help push your life to the next level. whether that's in business, whether that's in your job, that's with your family, whatever it is. But the main thing that he talks about, one of the key takeaways from there is your brain, you have obviously trillions of cells in your brain. And what you want to do is try and create, I think they're called synapses or links between the brain cells. And the more of these connections you can make between the brain cells, the better it's going to be for you. The more likely is you're going to come up with a new idea and a new perspective. So that is one of the most powerful books that I've read, because it then allows me to understand what I can do to get new ideas for my business or my podcast, or content I want to create for you guys. So let me see the last book, Millionaire, Fastlane. That's it. MJ Demarco. I don't know if you've heard of it, but if you haven't, check it out. The reason he's written this book is by an entrepreneur called MJ Demarco. Now, he has written this book telling his story of how he became successful as an online entrepreneur a few decades ago, I think in the early 2000s. But again, the main point from this book is, amongst all the information he's got in there, which is all great, all of it is worth a read, every single page of that book. But the main thing that I took away from it is provide value. If you want to make money, don't go after money. That it doesn't make sense. And the best example he gives is money is like a cat. If you want to chase after a cat, if you want a cat to sit in your lap, you can't chase after it because it's just going to run away. But if you put a can of tuna in your lap, then more than likely it's going to come and sit in your lap willingly. So the point he was making there is provide value to people. Give them something they want to bite on. Give them something that they want from you. Don't just ask for money. And then once you've got them and they understand what your value is and what you provide and what your contribution to your customers are, then they'll be like, actually, this guy's worth speaking to. This guy's worth listening to. And once you've got their trust, that's when you can sell. That's when you can push them products or whatever it might be that you're doing to make money. Because at that point, they feel like this person is of value. I've seen some of their other content. I've seen what he talks about. And for me, I like it. I understand it. I can connect with him. I understand him. And I know he's genuine. And then at that point, it's easier to make a sale. That's just one of the many points in that book. But I hope you've enjoyed those 1, 2, 3, 5 books that I've spoken about. Because those are the 5 books that I keep rereading. And I constantly learn from them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to list some of the books below. If you're watching this on YouTube, then I'll list them below in the description. On the podcast, I'll list it in the show notes. So till next time, guys, remember you're only one decision away from becoming a legend.